not to make rash decisions, within, meow meow time of the experience, right? Because, the experience can be euphoric and make you less aware of the consequences of changing your life in a dramatic way. There's actually a lot of really, really important research now about insights, the feeling of insights. And this was one of the earlier mechanisms suggested in psychedelic literature to explain why psychedelics can help. Because you go into this experience, you have an insight, and it changes you in some way for the better. And there's a lot of research on like aha moments that psychedelic researchers maybe weren't aware of when publishing those first articles, that the feeling of have an insight is not at all correlated with the truth of said insight, which is a really important thing to to know. Right? Have you ever had a chiddush that you thought was like super, super solid, and then you look at your notes the next day and it's like, what was I thinking, right?
Partially why the therapeutic process with psychedelics is so crucial. Like you can't just take psilocybin and say, oh, well, the research is out there that...
Right, no, so that's what I was saying before about the context. The circumstances are super, my colleagues and I are working on this model that sees the experience in the, sort of center of a broader process of the preparation and
within the clinical setting.
Well, I mean, we could.
I'd imagine. Are you telling me not?
Well, I'm not encouraging everyone to go and have anyone to go into underground illegal settings to do anything. However, there's reason to believe that the way it works in clinical settings is very similar to how it might impact a person in non-clinical settings, right?
So I'll say two things back to that. So PubMed did a umbrella meta-analysis review of a bunch of different meta-analyses in 2024. Okay. I'll put the link in the show notes for you guys. And they reviewed psilocybin, MDMA, a little bit of ayahuasca, and one or two others as well, DMT, and I'm missing one more, and I don't know what it was, but you'll see it in the study anyway. But they were able to establish that they thought that there was sufficient evidence for short-term clinical therapeutic processes for people that were having severe issues with certainly depression and PTSD. And I believe that for depression and PTSD, the most effective therapeutic process that they used short-term was psilocybin, and for PTSD was MDMA, but you can look at it there. But
so I just want to say for the record, I'm not. If you have even the authors of this study, just but
in general, PubMed is pretty well respected. But I'm not an expert at all.
No, so I just know which article you're talking about. But I would say that I would want to rush to add, psilocybin is now the subject of phase 3 clinical trials in the U.S. and Europe. MDMA was recently actually rejected by the FDA this past year, but is probably going to be applied for, approval will probably be applied for again soon. I think MAPS, the main, or I can't remember what they're called now, not Lykos.
But the point is that that's in a clinical setting, and even then it's only short-term use.
No.
But that's like point one in terms of like just the data, the very little amount of this umbrella study that I saw. But added on to that, your whole narrative, here, which I think was great and makes a lot of sense, and I think is definitely much safer than taking on your own. Is, are you in that stairwell by yourself when it's raining outside and you're depressed, right, and it's dark, et cetera, et cetera. Being in a clinical setting with someone who understands this process somewhat, what it's actually going to be doing to you, and it's a safe space, and to help you unpack all those experiences, I think is, if anyone's going to go down this road, it's crucial. I wouldn't just give someone some psilocybin and be like, enjoy, buddy.
No, absolutely. And again, there's different aspects of these experiences that might be more closely associated with short-term improvements, but other things that are tied to longer-term improvements. Look, if we zoom out for a second, we have a big problem in the world today that more people than materially we're much better off, obviously, than previous generations, but there are unprecedented levels of mental distress, whether it's depression, anxiety, whatever, and not everybody responds to the treatments that are available. And so it behooves us, in the mental health field to explore, other candidate treatments. And so I want to be clear, psychedelics are not the only one on the horizon.
Yeah.
And there's, other treatments that are being studied. But even a short term, right? I mean, the research about ketamine for depression, for example,